Module 2.2, excuse me, Module 2, Section 2.3, looking at challenge activity 2.3.1. Again, we're looking at the housing and income spreadsheet that we saw in 2.2. So create scatter plots using the data in the spreadsheet linked above. Adjust the range of values in the horizontal and vertical axes, just like we saw before. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm looking at this. I can tell this x-axis, x variable is FICO score. The y variable up here looks like the probability one, the probability of default, just based on the values I'm seeing. So I'm going to go ahead and create a spreadsheet with this one. Highlight, go to insert, go down to scatter. Looks like we definitely need to adjust our scale. Let's see what they have there, 500 to 800. So we're going to go down here to axes and axis options. And it said 500, oops, to 800. We're going to keep it at the same thing that they have in the picture just for comparison. So there's our very, very similar scatter plot. Okay, sorry, I'm just adjusting it so we can kind of see them together. And again, you can see what this one is just based on the values we saw in the spreadsheet. So we can already say that the variables we're looking at are FICO score somewhere in there and probability of default. All right, so what is the direction of the correlation? Here we see our x increasing while our y variable is decreasing. That is a negative correlation. The way I always think of it is if they're going in an opposite direction. If one is increasing, the other one's decreasing, and vice versa. So that way it's easier to remember. If they're going the same direction, it's positive. All right, what is the strength of the correlation? I will tell you, these look very much in a straight line. It's a very strong looking correlation based on that alone. See what we can even add here. Oops, I just clicked on a tab. Sorry about that. What we can also add here to help you kind of see that. Oops, when we're here, you go to chart design, go down here to trend line. And you can add a trend line. And then you can even, what's kind of cool I like is you can even go down to these more trend line options. And if you scroll all the way down, it'll give you your correlation, your R squared, and your linear regression line. You can see it's a pretty, like everything's really close. In other words, we would also say that our residuals are real small because you can see these dots are hitting on the line. There's not a lot of that epsilon error there. So we would say that this is a strong correlation. Let's check. Expected. So we'll go on to, well, check next to expected. We'll go to next. Here it says create scatter, using the same thing. So what is the equation for the regression line that predicts the probability of default and percent using credit scores as the explanatory variable? Well, we were given this equation right here. So let's go ahead and type it in here. It's got 3 decimal points. So we're going to be negative 0.155. Let me actually make this a little easier to see at the same time. So we have negative 0.155x. And here, what did we say? 111.6. But I'm going to go ahead and put 0.6. I'm going to add in those other zeros just to make sure it's got the right number of decimals. And what is the interpretation of the slope? So remember, our x variable in this case is FICO score. Our y variable is the percent, or the probability of default as a percentage. And I hate that terminology, but I understand what they're getting at. So what we're already looking at, since we have a negative slope, we know we're looking at a decrease. So it's one of these two, but remember that slope tells us the decrease of the y variable. Our y variable is the probability of default as credit score increases. Again, your slope tells you the increase or decrease in your y variable for every increase in x. Unit increase in x. And then what is the interpretation of the intercept? Now, just like we talked about earlier, the intercept is when your x is equal to 0. What does it tell you? And sometimes this is a great baseline depending on the variables you're looking at. But in this case, there's no x equals 0 because that's not a possible FICO score. So it does not make sense to interpret that. There's no practical interpretation. Let's check. Oops. All right, so this is that rounding error issue that that's been reported as iBooks. I've emailed with a few of you about it. So for anyone watching this, make sure you use a round it to the nearest whole number instead of going out any decimal places. Again, I've already reported this. I know the department's reporting and trying to work on it. So we will definitely try to get that addressed as soon as possible. In the meantime, though, like I said, just round that to the nearest whole number. All right, if you have any questions about that one or any other ones, let me know.